forensic economics. First of all, let's take a look at some of our market realities. I call them pattern interrupters. Because you know what? We all are stuck in this mindset that we have. We know that. That's how we are. We need something to interrupt that pattern to think differently, think outside our own mindset, outside the box. So that's why I'm going to start this seminar with a little bit of a negative news. It's not a negative, it's just realities. When we take a look at the constant decline in the standard of living for the past 40 years. For 40 years. I'm not going to tell you nothing you don't already know, but maybe it didn't register. For the last 40 years, the standard of living of working people has been on a decline. This is not just for Canada as well, by the way. This is all around the world. It's interesting about Canada. Let me talk about Canada, our beloved country here. Our politicians fake it pretty good. You know, we're supposed to be the world's benchmark for banking system, the country that didn't crash with the economical downturn of the world. Hey, the G20 came here in Toronto to get a lecture from our people about running an economy, running a country. What a smoke and mirror that is. 3 weeks ago, it hit the news. Ontario, there's 5 million people here. By 2020, their debt level in Ontario is going to be worse than California, and California is bankrupt. So now they're changing all the laws, and they're panicking now. You know, everything. This home transfer tax they just put a few years ago, and now they just keep on adding. Ontario is in worse financial shape than California, and they're broke over there. So the economy is absolutely, it's going a direction that if you think like your parents thought, that I'm going to do my 40-40, which eventually became 40-50, like 40 hours, 40 years, then 50 hours, 40 years, then 50-50, 50 hours, 50 years, and the government will take care of me in the pension. Well, I'm going to change your mind on that. Okay? So forensic economics, today we're going to talk a lot about those type of things. Canada, all-time household debt. This as of a year ago, it's worse now, but last stat I have, 1.42 trillion, which is the worst in our history. And guess what? You're part of that, by the way. So if you're thinking to yourself, thinking, yeah, you know what, our household, maybe some of you are thinking, you know what? Yeah, we're part of that. Record number of bankruptcies, 19%. Now, Canada is a benchmark, and this is our numbers. Imagine the rest of the world. This is a global problem. Highest unemployment and underemployment in decades. Now, in Canada, we don't do too bad with employment. That's one area we don't do too bad. But the problem with Canada is not so much in underemployment or employment as the raise that doesn't cover the inflation. So the standard of living has been declining. Now we talk no job security, demise in paper currency, which you call money, and crash off of the world economy. Now, the number one, I guess pretty much the only reason why the world is in a mess, financial world is a mess, is called what? Inflation. Inflation is a killer, is the enemy. And what inflation really means is the decline of your paper currency's value. The decline in money's value. That means now the same amount of money buys you less goods and services. So when your money starts to lose value, and it has been since 1950s, by the way, but it's getting a lot worse now. So when your money starts to lose value, then you can buy less of what you used to buy. So either you have to cut back to be able to maintain, or you do what most people do, borrow. Because nobody wants to give up their lifestyle, so that's when the credit cards come in. That's when the line of credits come in, right? So that's what's going on right now with the industry. So the inflation is what's killing the lifestyle of the people around the world. And it's not just people. Inflations affect governments as well. So now we got a world financial crisis. So when the government is in trouble, unlike you, who do they go to get their money? They go to you. That's when we get a tax hike, and there's been taxes added to things that was never taxes before. Like in Canada, they bought the HST not too long ago. We already had 2 taxes before that. So inflation is what is governing the world right now, and that's the major problem that we have right now. Now, when you take a look what inflation has done, is that if you think back, in 1970s, some of you guys are young enough, your parents, and some of you guys, maybe it was just yourselves, where one-income families did okay. They were comfortable. And then it wasn't okay anymore. Then you needed two-income families, so both had to work in the 80s and 90s. And next thing you know, in this millennium, that's not enough anymore. So now people are looking, as they have two jobs already, they're looking two jobs and another revenue stream. And in most cases, well, some people go get an extra job or weekend job or whatever. But in most cases, people look into starting a business. By the way, that is what's driving our industry. 25,000 people a week are starting a home-based business. Because what happens is that when you're already working full-time, you have a family, you need something flexible that you could fit in within your schedule. So that's what's driving our industry. And this is why I was, talk about, we have the world's greatest industry. We've abused it to death, and yet it's still growing. It's still growing. You know why? Because there's such a strong need for it. The workforce of direct sales and MLM have completely tried their best to ruin the industry. And there's a reason for that. I'm pretty tough on the teachers of the industry. So on my website, forensicnetworker.com, I broke down the top 1%. Forget about the 99%. The top 1% that make a lot of money, I categorize them in 3 different categories. 1/3 got lucky. Right place, right time, especially with the binary system. 2 legs, you come in, 1 leg gets built anyways, the other leg, you bring 1 or 2, they bring 1 or 2, eventually you get some traction, next thing you know you're an expert because you're making big money. You're on the stage talking about something, you have no clue what you're talking about. That's 1/3 of the top 1%. The other 1/3 is hard workers. I have had some students, you've heard about 14 millionaires we've been creating our camp. I've had students that have become millionaires, not because they knew the industry, because they're really hard workers. I mean, I've had students that would come to my home. I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, and his girlfriend's hanging out with us, and he's in my office, in my basement, and hitting the phone 16 hours in a day. Eventually got some traction, made a lot of money, but still doesn't get it, which means he cannot duplicate it, which means he cannot teach you. But these people are perceived as experts. So 2/3 of the top 1%, uninformed, uneducated about the industry, yet they're being perceived as experts. Then you got the last 1/3 of the millionaires who actually get it, providing the right timing with the opportunity, they'll do it over and over and over again. So when you have 99.6% of the workforce, uneducated, unskilled, in this field, we have these people are teaching the new people that are coming in what they don't really know. Is it any surprise that the success ratio of the industry is so low? There isn't. No other industry in the world, hospitality industry. Can you imagine if 99.6% of the restaurants didn't have a trained cook or chef? Would you go eat outside? Would that industry last? What if 99.6% of the lawyers were not really lawyers? How would that industry do? How about if 99.6% of the medical field were not really doctors? No other industry in the world can sustain that abuse, would collapse. Yet our industry is thriving because there's such a strong need for it. So we come up with a forensic, and we're going to pull out the right message out and tell people the truth. It's not easy. It's simple. It's not easy. It requires work and discipline. If you want this to become your full-time income, and many have, you better be ready to make some basic changes in your day-to-day. And that includes some things that are precious to you. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So one thing we know for sure, inflation is affecting everybody. Your buying power is getting less and less every year. That is a 100% fact. That's not a 99.9. Every year you're losing buying power because the paper currency you call money is losing value. So over the last 40 years, where one income was good for the family to buy enough goods and services to survive, then became 2 income, and that's not enough now. We need 2 income plus, whatever that plus is. Part-time business, extra job, and so forth. That's not going to change. If anything, it's getting worse. So that is a fact. Inflation is affecting you year by year. So you have no choice but to start another revenue stream. So hopefully we have convinced you that you have no choice in that. All right. Since money is consistently losing value, what are the experts saying about trying to fight against that? What's hedge against currency inflation? Precious stones and precious metal. Every expert in the world tells you now, go invest in gold and silver and precious stones. Now, I'm not saying it's because we're in that business. We're in a different topic right now. I'm getting somewhere with this. It's good that we're in that business. I mean, it's natural for us as opposed to selling some health product or telecom product. You know, at least that's a bonus for us that is our business. So the hedge against inflation is gold and silver and precious stones. What is hedge exactly? All hedge means is that try to match your losses with your wins. So go ahead and invest into things that are gaining value while your money is losing value. That's all it means. So every time money loses value, what goes up in price? Gold, silver, precious stones. It goes up in value. So every expert in the world will tell you, invest into precious. And it's going to get worse and worse. And why is it getting worse? Well, because the government, years ago, decided that, you know what? Because initially, the money was backed by gold and silver. Along the way, the government decided, you know, we don't need to do that. We're a big country. I'm a big boy. You know, we'll pay our debt. So much like how you go to the bank and based on your credit, you get a loan, the World Bank started to give countries credit based on their credit, not based on the amount of gold they had. So now, countries start to print money. Now, when you have less collateral than the money you're actually borrowing, what does the bank do to you? Your interest rate goes up, right? Because I have less confidence. Can they pay it back? It's the same with countries. So U.S. lost their credit rating, and Canada lost a little while before that. You know, we got it back. Is that when your debts start to go higher, you know, that the World Bank has confidence you could pay back, you lose your credit rating. With our business, what's going on with the world right now is that because we don't have the backup as gold and silver, now the World Bank has raised the interest rate on the countries. Countries that were selling us stuff, they're saying, you know, if before $10 bought me 10 tomatoes, I think I'm going to charge $12 because I'm not sure if that dollar is strong enough. So, of course, suppliers bring in more expensive goods. They pass it on to you. Now, you're paying more for goods, but guess what? Your salary didn't go up at the same ratio. That's called inflation. So cost of living goes up, your salary can't keep up, that's called inflation. So two things have to happen. You cut back on goods and services or you borrow. That's why the household debt is an all-time high. Okay? So I want to give you why. If you think you have a job and you'll still be able to pay your line of credits and credit cards, and that's life, and it's getting worse and worse as it has for the past 40 years. You have no choice but to start another revenue stream. So hedge means when you have a losing asset, depreciating asset, invest into something that's appreciating. That's what it means. So since money is losing value, and when you go to a job, what do you get back in return for your hours? You're getting back paper or money, right? So since money is losing value, is a depreciating asset, then what is your job? It's a depreciating asset. So this is where I declare to the world, and I wrote it in my book, is that if, and we know, since gold and silver and precious stones are hedged against inflation, which is depreciating value being matched by appreciating value, then MLM and direct sales is a direct hedge against your jobs. Because hey, we got another depreciating value, which is your jobs, building up an appreciating value, which is your business. Does that make sense? Yes. So this is why you must take it seriously. I've always said your part-time business doesn't have to take as much time as your full-time job. But you should give it the same amount of respect as your full-time job. If anything, the way things are going now, this is more important than your full-time job because, not only because of stuff we talked about with depreciation, also there is no job security. This one, you are the boss. You control your destiny. Does that make sense? Good or great? All right. Of course, we also got the good old tax hike. Every time the government gets affected by inflation, they'll come after you. So take control of your future now. Don't be negligent about your future. Again, like I said, just because you can afford to pay the line of credit, and you're struggling, that. Things are tight. If you ever had to say, I would do this, but if I could afford it, guess what? You just got used to it, paying those bills. You just got used to, struggling. It's become normal to you. There's an old story, Dog on a Nail. You heard that story? A guy goes to visit his friend and looks in the backyard. There's a dog crying. He tells his friend, why is your dog crying? He says, because he's sitting on a nail. Well, why does he get up? Because it doesn't hurt bad enough yet. That's how people handle the finances sometimes. Until it bleeds, they don't actually make the changes. Don't we do that with our health too? We don't pay attention to our health till somehow the doctor says, uh-oh. So why does it have to be that way? Take control of your future. Listen, the writing is on the wall. If you are relying on your job to get you to the golden years, there's no such thing anymore. Right? If that's what you're relying on, the writing is already on the wall. You can God bless Walmart for not what you think. Because when you go to Walmart, who's checking your bags on the way out? People who should be retired, 60 plus. These are the baby boomers that the government lied to. The government said, do your 40-40 and retire on me. Between inflation and the government cutting back, because even in Canada, the age of retirement went up by 2 years, right? Around the world, it's the same thing. Look what's happened to Greece. Wow. Look, Cyprus. Did you hear that story? Cyprus banks? What they're doing? They're taking the savings, people's savings from the bank, tax them 10%. These are your savings that you've had there because the country's broke. Imagine if Canada did that, right? Your money's in the bank, 10% gone. They tax it. So, and food stamps, like 42% of Americans on food stamps, and guess what? Canada's going that direction. So, I'm telling you right now is that the writing is on the wall. So, if you're working right now, good for you, wonderful. But you know one thing for sure, forget about insecurities. Let's assume you have a good, cushy job like Reza did, okay? With benefits. Now, one time, we're sitting in a sauna steam room at Mont Tremblant, it's a resort we got over there, and I was telling him this within the first 3 years he wasn't doing anything. I said, hey, listen, you got to get going with this. And he says, I got this managerial position of the government, and it's got this great benefits, free benefits, he called it, free benefits. I look at him and I said, brother, it's not free. It's not free, So, because when you're a manager, you put all these extra hours, never get paid for, right? That's a managerial position. In any event, make sure that you start taking control of your lives and your financial future, and don't rely on the job or the government. It's not funny, but I find it humorous. It's not funny, though, that 56% of Americans and 44% of Canadians, they rely, this was on the news, they rely on lotteries, inheritance, and some type of divine intervention for them to have a comfortable retirement. Did you know that? I mean, this is North America. They're looking for that because they know their job is not going to get them there. If you already know that, and your ace card is lottery and inheritance, so you can retire comfortably, take control of your future. So some of you young guys, forget about that. You have no pension by the time you get that. I'll tell you right now. Don't even, doesn't matter what you paid into. There is no pension. When the country is broke, we'll do whatever it can to sustain itself first, much like Cyprus. Not only they've gone beyond it, they've gone in your bank account. You need to take control, and the only way to do that is start your own business. Make sense? Yes. All right. Hopefully, we convince you that you need to start your own business. So you need an income generator option outside your job. One option is part-time job. Just go get another part-time job. So you got 2 full-time jobs, 1 more part-time job. I guess that's one income generator. For most people, that's not so viable. Second option is quit your job, get a second mortgage on your home, start a traditional business. That's another option. Not so viable for most people. The most viable option, the best option is starting a business from home, which happens to be multi-level marketing or direct sales. Is that good or great? That's why you guys are all here, so I congratulate you for that. And because it's the best, it's the fastest growing method of distribution for the past 70 years, by the way. It's the fastest growing method of distribution, fastest growing form of business for the past 70 years. Now, sometimes people don't do this for money. Social aspect is important. Sometimes people do it because they want less stress and they want to slow down from there. Because there are people making good money in their jobs. There's some good jobs out there. But our industry offers more than that. Because sometimes it's not about the money. First of all, when you make more money, when you're in a job, then you pay more taxes, right? There was a time, when I was growing up, it was like, hey, having a six-figure income is good. Six-figure income today puts you just over broke. There are some jobs there that gives you good money. But there's other reasons people want to get out. Because, less time with the family. They want more time with the family. They want less stress. They find their jobs affecting their health. They want to slow it down. So coming to this convention, meet some interesting people. So yesterday, I'm talking to many of you. I had some people walked up to me, and this young lady says, hey, I'm from Wisconsin. I just want to say hi. I said, oh, thank you so much. Thank you, American friends of ours coming down. Thank you very much. Give me a hand. And she is so modest and sweet, and she's just kind of, I've seen her name and picture on Facebook, but first time we met. And this young man across from him says, let me tell you about this young lady. She is one of the most brilliant lawyers in Wisconsin. She's a judge. And I am a lawyer. They do very well. I am a lawyer. And then they have a couple of friends. I guess they came together. And right away I said, wow, what a discussion these guys have at home, right? Can you imagine that? And he says, this young lady sneezes, makes hundreds of dollars. Yet she wants to do this. She wants to do GWT. And he says, well, I didn't understand it, but she put me in contempt. So my point is that, can you imagine at home, though? No, I better not go there. That's just so awesome, to highly sharp, intelligent people, having that little discussion. Actually, their friends said, oh, we drove with them. Oh, you should hear the discussions. It's pretty cool. Very cool. So the point I'm making is that the industry offers more than money. That's the beauty of working for yourself and working in an industry that offers leverage. Working for yourself is sometimes you can be self-employed in something or other business, but it's you. Okay? But what we want is one John Paul guy that says, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's effort than 100% of my own. Yes. Right? So the industry offers us all of that. And yet we don't take it seriously? Really? Take it seriously. In conclusion, governments around the globe are struggling. The same type of struggles you have at home. Except they can come to you. You don't have nowhere to go to. To be, it's up to me. Start taking control of your retirement planning now yourself. And don't leave it up to the government, because if you leave it up to the government, you will most likely find yourself checking bags at Walmart where it's supposed to be golden years. And I'm not making fun of this. Thank God that Walmart offers that. And these folks were lied to. That's all. They worked hard. They were supposed to. The golden years, we used to say that, you do the 40-40, then you go, you have a nice home that's paid off, you got a car that's paid off, and wintertime you go south to Florida. That used to be what golden years used to be. They didn't have a choice because they were lied to, and they didn't know any better. They believed what their government said to them. But you do have a choice, and the information is out there. You have no excuses when you get there. That's what this industry is flourishing. Good or great?